When I was 10 years old, I had something happen that changed my life. I got my period. You'd think that such a monumental event would come with some fanfare, or at least a lot of information that would help me understand what was happening to my body. Instead, my mother handed me a Kotex napkin and one of those belts that was used to keep it in place at the time, and that was it. I didn't talk about it with her or with my older sisters. I didn't talk about it with my friends. The only information I got was from a movie they played in class for girls only, while the boys were in another room watching their own movie. That was my sex education. And that's the way it was in my generation. Menstruation was something that happened, that we girls just had to endure. Nobody spoke about PMS or even knew what it was. I was lucky that I didn't have issues like unbearable cramps. And when I got old enough to start using tampons, I pretty much stopped thinking about my period as nothing more than a minor monthly inconvenience. That's why, when I first met my guest today, Menstruation Mentor Netsenet Ghiday, I had a major reawakening and decided to devote an entire issue to this once shunned subject. First of all, I'd never heard of Menstruation Mentor before and was surprised to learn that it wasn't all about how to pick the best sanitary pads. No, Netsenet believes that our bodies, our wombs, are sacred spaces, and she guides both girls and women on the importance of honoring our womb through all stages of our lives. She does this through workshops, women's circles, and other areas for community gathering. And she says that there's a major connection between what we can learn from our wombs and what we can learn from our dreams. So let's find out more about it. Welcome to the Dream Power Experience, that's Senate.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, well, like I said, this is a topic I never thought I was going to talk about, but you bring such wisdom to it that I would just have to share it with everyone. So let me start with this, though. Senate, when did you first realize that there was more to menstruation than cramps and inconvenience?
I started my womb healing journey in 2015, 2016, after many years of just feeling aggravated and frustrated and sick and all that. And so I started trying to find other resources, like non-traditional resources. So I started doing all different kinds of things, actually. I did some dancing, I did kundalini yoga, I did some womb steaming. I changed my menstrual products that I was using to things that were more organic and herbal based, and um, a, a whole slew of things I did to start learning more about how to connect with my womb and how to honor my sacred bleeding time.
Well, why do you feel it's so important to honor our womb?
Well, one, because your womb is the house. It is the energetic center that connects you to your entire maternal lineage. You know, all the women that came before you, and those women carried you in their womb. So there is a backlog of knowledge and ancestral wisdom there that you can tap into when you start to connect with your womb. And if you know the stories of your maternal ancestors or your mother's mothers, if you know their womb stories, it can help you make sense of what you're experiencing with your own womb.
So, what kind of stories are you talking about?
Mm, okay. Well, my personal story, I learned a lot about the women in my family having hysterectomies, having abortions, having sexual traumas that they experienced that they hadn't spoken about. And actually that actually came to me through dream wisdom. So and I kind of well, it's twofold. Some of these things came to me through interviewing, like asking questions to people in my family. Other things came to me through dreams, because once I opened the door to start asking questions and then connecting with my ancestors, I begin to get more wisdom through my dreams.
So did you actually connect with ancestors in your dreams?
Yes. Yes.
And what kind of things did they tell you?
Well, the, lots of things were revealed about certain patterns that weren't healthy for my family, and things that were kept silent.
And what kinds of things were kept silent? I mean, things that were kept silent in between the generations.
Yeah, yeah. So some of what I spoke about, the trauma stuff. They're I am a sexual trauma survivor, and I'm the first and only woman in my family to have spoken out about what I have experienced and my personal experiences. But through my dream wisdom, some things have been revealed to me that haven't necessarily been spoken outwardly by people in my family, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And then when you learned these things, was it difficult to have discussions with your family members about this?
Mm, yeah, absolutely. I don't really talk with my family members about my dream wisdom, but because it is not something that everybody regards as something that is good. That I'll just say that.
Okay, but you do help other people honor their womb and their womb wisdom. So how do you do that?
Yeah, so I hold circles for women where we talk about different things connected to the womb. We talk about how to care for our wombs. We talk about different womb challenges we might have. We talk about products. We talk about rituals and practices we can do. And then I have the programs that I do for young girls to specifically talk about menstruation, which is where the Menstruation Mentor comes in. I have a program called Honor Your Flow, where I teach girls about how to care for themselves during their period and their sacred bleeding time. I also support sexual trauma survivors or survivors who have experienced some type of reproductive trauma. So, what I mean by that is like people who may have had abortions or may have had an experience at the gynecologist that was traumatic, stuff like that. Um, yeah.
I get that. And it's interesting that you say that you do this through circles because in dream work we have dream circles where people gather together to discuss their dreams and in doing so, you know, a it with the idea that one person's dream is everyone's dream and the wisdom gotten that's received from a dream could be shared by others. So it's the
Mm.
same thing where, one person has some wisdom that shares it and everyone grows as a benefit.
Yeah, yeah, I guess you can say that. I call it a metamorphosis circle, but butterflies are my thing, and I really believe that the womb is like a portal for transformation, similar to the stages that the butterfly goes to. So yeah, when we're in those circles, we do share stories, we share our experiences, and it does kind of feel like we're helping each other put pieces together in a puzzle because we all may be experiencing similar things or different things, but they're all interconnected for sure.
Okay, I want to talk a bit about, the young girls that you talk to because like I said in my started this episode, I knew nothing, and it was the subject nobody talked about at all when I was younger. Do you
Mhm.
find it that people are opening up more now than they used to?
Yeah, I think over the past 7 or 9 years, however long it's been, I started that journey in like the 2013. I think yeah, overtime has definitely been embraced more. I mean, look at the all the new products we have now. Like we have cups, we have pads, we have cloth pads, we have discs. There's so many things that we have access to now that we didn't before, but also the conversation around reproductive health and maternal mortality and menstruation equity, like all these things, these were not like words or phrases that I heard when I first started doing this work.
You just had mentioned a phrase I've never heard of, menstruation equity. What is that?
Yeah, but because people don't realize that there are people who live in poverty or are unhoused, and the way that they deal with their sacred bleeding time looks very different than the way that we do it. We just go and buy pads at the store, right? But like, well, let me not say we, because sometimes I'm in the same boat, and I'm not unhoused, but like there are some months where you have to decide, do I want to eat, or do I want to get pads, right? And when you're unhoused, like you don't have access to the same resources. So there's that thing, but then there's also the equity around like women in working spaces, and how, we need to be off work during our sacred bleeding. like there are certain things that we just don't need to be doing during that time, so that our bodies can replenish itself. So there's that piece, and then the other piece is non-binary and trans folk who are also bleeding, that they're not acknowledged. And I think sometimes it's hard for people to understand that concept as well. So there's so many things.
Yeah, it's very interesting you say that because, I would just think all women have the same experience, more or less, to varying degrees, because we are all women. But it's very, eye-opening to know that there are differences, from
Mhm. So
various.
so many. I think that also speaks to the products as well, because now even with period underwear, there are different styles, because people have different needs. Like I might like to wear bikini cut underwear, right? But someone who is trans or not non-binary might prefer briefs, shorts, that they can bleed into. So that there's so much there. I think that that stuff kind of needs to be spoken about more on a larger scale, which I think will continue to happen as time moves forward.
Absolutely, and the fact that there are so many different products now. I mean, you know, obviously, I am past the age of, having my period, but I never, and the thought of, bleeding into a garment is something that, it's a little alien to me because of, how I grew up, but I could see how it could be, a viable, that preferred option for people.
It is that they work. They're pretty good. I've tested them out. So yes.
Because the technologies have changed over the years. I mean, like, 200 years ago, women used rags, so
Mm-hmm.
that's been, and you talk a bit about, how our understanding our wombs helps us better understand ourselves.
Yeah, so one of the things for me in my journey, I realized when I started to really honor my sacred bleeding time, and view my womb as a vessel, as a sacred vessel, I began to learn how to better honor my boundaries. And so over time, it's like, one, your sacred bleeding time comes monthly. So that's every month you have an opportunity to practice creating a boundary for yourself, to what I call cocoon yourself. Okay, so you put yourself in this womb cocoon so that you can swaddle yourself in all the love and care and attention that maybe you didn't get throughout the month, but because that's what you need during your bleeding times, like you're rewombing yourself. And so that's the biggest thing, is I feel like it teaches you how to learn how to connect with yourself on a deeper level, and to be present, to be fully present, and to honor your boundaries.
You were talking about how we can understand ourselves, have that time to be with ourselves, during the time we have our period. Can you also speak about how this can also facilitate self-love, greater self-love?
Yeah, yeah, because like I was saying before, it really it's a time for you to really show yourself the deep care and love that you may desire or not get during the month. And so um you can you can do those self-love practices in fullness in a way that maybe you didn't before. Now this is of course if maybe you um you have support with your kids if you have kids or like but again that goes back to setting up boundaries for yourself. And so that could look like a number of things, like making sure that someone prepares meals for you instead of you cooking for yourself, or you cooking something that is very nourishing and simple and easy for you to make during that time, so that you're not stressed, or to taking a much longer bath than what you normally would. It's just like really allowing yourself to indulge in those practices that make you feel cared for.
And do you have
Yeah.
any other techniques that
Mm,
you use or recommend to help facilitate this?
yeah. I actually so I share a home with my 12-year-old brother. And so this is a recommendation for people with children. I actually talk very openly with my brother about my sacred bleeding time and what things I need to feel cared for. And so he's actually my little runner. Sometimes he goes and gets my tea and brings it to me. He goes and gets my heating pad and warms it up for me. So finding ways to use what and who is available to you to support you, teaching people how to care for you.
That is very important. But what about people who, have very busy or stressful lives where, they're working or they're going to school or they're doing something where, their period comes and they don't have the ability to just stay at home or have that time
Well,
to do.
I'm gonna challenge that, but because we all have the ability, and it's just about being courageous enough and being yeah, really courageous, because the world will tell us that everything out there is more important than what's going on in our bodies, and it takes having really strong sense of self and boundaries to be able to say I need this time for myself, even if it's just 2 days. You might believe 7 days, but 2 of those days you're very heavy or you're very cranky or you're moody or whatever. Those 2 days, advocate for yourself and say, no, I can't. Mark it off your calendar. It took me many years to get used to practicing that. And now it has become normal to the point where I speak about this before I'm a nanny, or I used to be a nanny. I would say this up front with nanny clients that I need these times off every month to care for myself, because I need to be well here.
And what are some of the other ways we can take care of ourselves? When you talked about, having somebody, maybe make meals for us or, taking a bath or just, being with ourselves. What else can you recommend?
I would also recommend thinking about, when you think about the entirety of the cycle, because it's not just the bleeding time, but the entirety of the cycle. And so what when you're ovulating, that's typically the sign. But before you start bleeding, it's also typically the time where we need to be pausing. We need to be slowing down. We need to be resting a little bit more to prepare for our bleeding time. So I would also suggest paying attention to the ovulation period, so that you can mark that on your calendar to know, okay, let's be slow. Let's delegate some stuff. Let's accommodate ourselves in a different way so that we can like move more slowly.
Okay, so this is, a certain time of our month. Uh, what can we learn during this time that could help guide us and give us wisdom through the other weeks of the month
During ovulating or during bleeding?
during bleeding?
Mm. That's a good question. During bleeding, I think that's the time when you allow yourself to be in deep rest to receive. For me, it's the time that I feel like my dreams but become more vivid. It's when I feel like I receive more messages. Maybe the stuff that I have been sitting with throughout the month is finally starting to make sense. But because my dreams are showing me, oh, I was worried about that like 3 weeks ago, and now I'm starting to understand how it connects to another vision I had. And then after my bleeding time, I can start to put those things into to effect.
It's interesting you were just talking about dreams because I was going to ask you about this. There have been studies that have shown that uh, pregnant women tend to have very vivid dreams, more vivid than they would normally have. And you just mentioned that when you're bleeding, you have vivid dreams as well. Uh, is this something that you find consistent with you? And have you found that with other people you've mentored or
Yeah, I definitely find that is consistent with me. I haven't necessarily most honestly, most people that I mentor don't have a deep connection with their dreams. So it's something that I'm bringing it into their awareness. But I always encourage them start keeping a journal during your bleeding time and just notice. But for me, for sure, I think that it is something that has deepened more and more over time.
indeed. Do you find that the type of wisdom that is conveyed through our wombs during this time changes as we age?
That's a mystery to me because I'm still I'm not in menopause, but I meet other women who are in menopause and I ask them, what is the spiritual significance of this experience? I understand very deeply what the spiritual aspects are of menstruation, but the menopausal women that I know haven't quite made that connection yet. And I'm very curious about that.
Oh, yeah, because you did say that you do, through your circles and your groups, deal with all phases going up through perimenopause and menopause itself. So,
Mhm, mhm.
uh, do you find that the people who you are in contact with who are in menopause, uh, feel better not having their periods anymore, or do they
No, there's a deep mourning that they haven't allow themselves to experience yet. That's the thing that I learned in speaking with them. It's like they went through these changes and didn't have a lot of information about the changes that were happening to them. And then once they figured out all the changes, it's like a secret hush hush club with other women who are going through the changes that also don't quite understand the changes. So it's just weird, but then when I talk a lot about menstruation, they see how deeply connected I am to my sacred bleeding time and my connection to my womb. And then what starts to reveal itself is they're mourning their bleeding years. And then we talk about how can we create rituals or practices to honor that grieving process around your youth or your fertility years or whatever that looks like.
so, tell me a bit more about this. So what kind of ritual could somebody create around this?
Mm. Well, there's lots of things you could do. I think that rituals are very specific to the individual. But there could be something like, now the big thing is the girls having period parties, right? And then you could have um goodbye period party or start a circle with your friends to just have story shares about your sacred bleeding time and your fertile years and the things that you wish you had or didn't. You could also do something monthly, even though you're not bleeding monthly anymore. It could just look like, okay, every month I'm going to do something to honor my fertile years in some way. So there's so many possibilities there.
But the important thing is acknowledging it. Yeah,
Acknowledging it and feeling all the feels, 'cause it doesn't just go away just because you mourned it once, it's just yeah, and finding new ways to connect with your womb.
yeah, well, especially since, hormones play such a big factor in it and control everything from, mood to energy to everything.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so, can you share any stories of anyone you've encountered who, feel that their lives were transformed or made better through honoring their own womb wisdom?
Me?
Well,
No, no, I was saying yes, definitely me, but, I think all of the women that I have been connected to have taken something from me, no matter how big or small it is. They've learned how to advocate for themselves, and that they've learned how to take more time for themselves. They've learned how to not dismiss their intuition. Learn how to pay attention to their body signals. So many things. All those things are changing practices, I feel.
they are. I want to get back to you were talking before about how you help with survivors of sexual trauma. Uh, how does uh, getting them to understand the importance of honoring their own wombs help them overcome that trauma?
Mm, okay, so I don't know if you've ever heard this saying, but there's a saying that the womb houses the all of your unsurfaced traumas, or the traumas that you experience, because it is such an energetic center. And I do believe this. And I also believe that our womb houses our joy as well. It's just a matter of processing all the grief first in order to experience the joy and be able to pour that in there as well. I think that's where we start. Helping them to understand that the unprocessed trauma sometimes sits there and can manifest in physical ways. um and once that understanding is there, it's a matter of teaching ways to actually just care, notice, and be in communication with your womb.
Yeah, well, I would think the communication just with other women is equally as important.
Absolutely, that's a big part. A lot of women that I have encountered who are sexual trauma survivors have mother wounds, so they don't have great relationship with their mothers, which also can create a disconnection with you connecting with your own womb. So yes, being in circles with other women helps heal that.
I would think so. Well, Lieutenant, is there a final thought you'd like to leave for our audience?
Mm, hmm. Your womb is sacred. Honor it as such. It is a vessel of divine intelligence, and you listen to it, listen to it, and be with it.
So important, so important. No, it's such an important thing. It's like I said, this was an area that was totally alien to me most of my life. So thank you for having the wisdom to share with us today about it. So how can people find out more about you and your work?
Yeah, okay. So I have a website on Kofi, Ko dash Fi. You can find me there. My name is Fairy Womb Goddess. And I'm not quite active right now, but will be. And that you can find things in my shop there. You can find out more about me. And I also have a YouTube channel that I'll be launching soon, and I have womb love affirmation cards that you can purchase as well.
Oh, talk to me a bit about that. So, these are cards that you would affirmations you would say to yourself?
Yeah, yeah. So when I first started my womb healing journey, before I knew about rituals, practices, anything, I just had my words and my hands, and I would use oil, rub it on my womb, and repeat these affirmations to myself. And a lot of these affirmations came from me journaling in my bleeding time journal, my dream wisdom, just things that would come to me, and I would create affirmations. And so I turned them into a card deck, and they're called Womb Love affirmation cards.
We've been speaking about the sacred womb with Netsenet Ghiday. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. If so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector Weisman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.